What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Berman Michael. That's not cool because you hear from me all the time. But what is really cool is my amazing two guests that I have here with me, Andrea and Brooke, co-founders of Gold Ivy Health. And these two ladies I met back in February at another Amplify event that I have now attended. And the cool thing about these two ladies is they actually have nothing to do with what I do. And in a really, really good way, in the sense of what they specialize in my opinion, is so desperately needed in our world right now, especially in the real estate and mortgage space. But before I get into all of that, welcome to both of you, Brooke and Andrea.
Thank you. We're so excited to be chatting with you. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you, ladies. I feel like we've done an okay job at staying in touch since February, and I was so eager to do this because it's such a timely conversation. So for those of you guys who join me, we typically talk about Instagram. We typically talk about how to generate more business, how to be doing things better on the Instagram platform, and unique angles. But what we're going to talk about today has nothing to do with any of that. What really the focus for us specifically is around mental health. And I also think really around the concept of how do we maintain our status and performance at the levels that we're running our businesses at. And Andrea, you and Brooke both have incredible stories. So why don't you two tell us a little bit about what is Gold Ivy and who are the two of you and what does my audience need to know?
Ooh, I love this question. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. It's an honor to be on your show. We take in the information that you have about Instagram, so it is very helpful. And also, we are very active there. But why we started our presence there, why we started Gold Ivy Health Co. was because Brooke and I both grew up with not a whole lot of guidance in our life. And the reason we know each other is through my husband, who's her cousin. And Brooke's 10 years younger than me. And when I met her at a family gathering, we had something in common. We had divorced parents, and something really connected us in that moment. She was little. She was like
8.
No, I think because it was 2007.
We're not mathematicians, so it doesn't matter.
Anyways, so we met, and since that moment, like, we stayed connected, and we both wanted this big, abundant life. And so we would share with each other what we were doing, where she wanted to go to school, and she came up here to Minnesota. And eventually we both ended up in health and wellness as health coaches, and then at the same company. And everything just kind of kept leading us to each other. And I was like, why don't we share what we're learning? We're leaning on podcasts. We're reading books. We're trying to be better people. We want money. We want success. We want all these things, but we have to take care of our health in order to get it. And so we started sharing on our podcast, Ivy Unleashed, what we were learning in real time and really honest about how hard it is to take care of yourself in the midst of running a business. Me, I'm trying to run a marathon in every state. I'm a mom of 3. Brooke has chronic health conditions. She's trying to manage and show up with a lot of energy. And so her and I were like, what's missing in this health and wellness space or in the business space is people talking about the struggle. Like, we are dealing with life in real time, and no one's really talking about, like, everybody wants to be this expert. And there are things Brooke and I are experts in, I will say, but we're also honest about, like, I had a really off day yesterday. I was exhausted from running around, and I want to talk about it with the people that listen and know that I'm not always running a marathon. I'm not always on point. I'm not always a 10 out of 10. And I think people need to learn how we're in real time getting through this, how we're posting daily on socials, because we are, and how we work as a team, and how important it is to take care of your mental health along this path of trying to be a successful human being.
Yeah, I would say the humanness. You see all of these experts on social media in their field, and it's great. It's great. But they are not the expert unless they are taking care of themselves. And that is something that no one is talking about, is how is your mental health? A lot of people in the personal development space now, they've reached a level where they feel like they can finally take care of themselves and are on this wellness journey. And we're doing things differently. We're saying we're starting from a foundation of we feel good. And we've noticed in our business that when money is coming in, when abundance is coming in, it's when we are taking care of ourselves and when we feel good and when we're pouring into our mental health. Because the business strategy, the social strategy, it doesn't matter if you are not okay, because that's going to pour into how you're showing up in your business.
All right. So Brooke, I love that. And I think where I want to pick this up from is really that goes all the way back to reminding myself of when I was in college, right? I swam competitively for 20 plus years, all through college, swimming for Rutgers. Now am a semi-competitive CrossFitter. I used to be very competitive, definitely dialed it back. But I also run half marathons. I'm nowhere near Andrea as far as running a marathon in every state. But like, I love how you just very briefly glossed over that. And I think that that needs to not be glossed over. The fact that you're running a marathon in every state is absolutely insanity. And I just think it's incredible. So, but what I really think is important here and why I'm bringing that up is honestly, my business coach many, many years ago said something to me. He's like, Michelle, how did you perform at such a high level for such a long time in the swimming space? And I said, well, again, in the moment, I was like, what do you mean, Grant? Like, I don't know. And he's like, no, really think about it. Like, what were the things that you were doing consistently day in and day out to be able to maintain that? And I said, well, if I really think about it, I was always in the training room. I was always icing, stimming, getting massages, doing PT, taking care of all of the physical aspects that kept my body running at that capacity. And then you transition, right? Now, close to 10 years later, and I'm not doing those things. He actually asked me on a coaching call recently. He's like, Michelle, when's the last time you got a massage? I was like, ugh, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years at least. And these are the things that I think we take for granted. And I'm not telling anybody listening to this to, hey, go, get a monthly massage subscription, but I am telling you that it does matter, right? It does impact your ability to maintain the capacity that you operate in and day out. And I assume that both of you girls have some thoughts there as far as why that's so important. And also, I think more importantly, why we tend to fall off, right? When we transition from athlete to running our businesses. Where do you guys feel like that fall off happens, or have you guys even experienced that yourselves?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, the mindset is I'll do this when, right? I'll get the monthly massage when I have enough business so that I can be okay taking some time away from the business, instead of viewing it as, okay, by me pouring into me, I'm also pouring into the business. So that mindset shift of it's not a one or the other, it's I am the business, right? If I'm not okay, the business isn't going to be okay. And what we're learning is entrepreneurship, business, it is 95% mindset. What is your mindset about the business? Are you becoming resentful of the business because you're not taking care of yourself? Now, I'm not saying, to your point too, Michelle, get a monthly massage, but hey, if it's going to make your business do good and you're going to be obsessed with pouring into the business because you feel good, maybe that monthly membership is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to circle back to the marathons and what you said about being an athlete, because I think it can really be a mirror of anything that you're going through. It can be like, okay, so for me, it's the marathons, but for somebody else listening, it might be something they really know I want to get back to. Why isn't this in my time? Why isn't this in my calendar? And how can I get to it? It feels impossible to do the thing I want to do. So for me, instead of like the massage and the ice baths, it's like, I need to make sure that I'm communicating with my partner that I need time for myself. I need to make sure that I'm doing things that light me up so I have the energy to even focus on what makes me me and what I need to feel okay. And so something I talk about, I call this a move method, because everything with us is about move, is the M of move is make a decision. What is it that I know I need to do? Do I need to focus on my income? Do I need to focus on my mental health? Do I need to focus on my physical health? Do I want to get back to the gym? Do I need to focus on planning my meals? Whatever it is, decide this is something I know I need to do to take care of myself. And then the O is optimizing your calendar, like move it into the calendar. If it's not in the calendar, you live off your calendar. Everybody that's listening, you live
Right.
off of it.
Yeah.
Put yourself in it. Put that thing in the calendar. Like, where is it happening? If it's not on there, it's not going to happen. And you can't keep saying you're going to make time for it if you don't actually put it on there. You know, most of them are entrepreneurs. They're making time to post. They're making time to meet with other people, to go on podcasts, whatever it is. And then the V of it is validating. Like, as we're an entrepreneur, a parent, an athlete, we're in a transition time. We're going to have another child. We're going to do this business venture. We're going to get on a big stage like you just did. Like, feelings come up of second guessing ourselves, feeling like we suck if we didn't meet the goal. We're trying to make this new movement to be this better person or this better business person. And we doubt ourselves. We have big days. We feel like we're out of shape or whatever it might be. And just validating, like, a lot of these feelings are going to come up, but I already decided I wanted to do this. I already put it on the calendar and I'm going to keep moving towards it. And then the E is evolving. Like, okay, maybe you're not the swimmer you were, but now you're in CrossFit, or now you're trying to get back to the gym. You're evolving as a person where you have different priorities, and like sometimes friendships change, sometimes your business shifts. And as we're evolving, it's like giving yourself grace and circling yourself with people and thoughts, your mindset of like, this is calling me. Like for me, it's like, I want to make more money in this business because we have big goals and dreams. We want to invest in coaches. We want to invest in traveling and going to events. Like, I got to shift my mind to this money mindset. And that's not always easy for me because I grew up in a family where there wasn't a lot of it. So it makes me feel selfish. It makes me feel a certain way if I want money. And so it's different for everyone what you're evolving to, but we're all evolving and it's not easy. But you've got to make your decision. You've got to put it on the calendar. You've got to focus on the feelings that keep sabotaging you and know that we're moving towards whatever it is that's calling you.
Yeah, I love it. And I think the number one piece of what you just said for the MOVE, right? The MOVE acronym, it, for me at least, it is optimize. And it has to be on our calendars because, I mean, you even kind of laughingly said it, but it's so true. If it is not on my calendar, it is not happening. And even my gym time, it is now blocked in my calendar very intentionally. I have a minimum guarantee of at least one girlfriend breakfast that I have every month. And usually it's with multiple different girlfriends, or we try to make everybody meet together. But the days where I get to go to the gym and then go have brunch with my friends after the gym, those are literally my fill my cup days, to the point where I can come back and I can then continue the rest of the week. And, when you're coaching and you guys are the same, right? Like I'm on Zoom, 6 hours a day, at least some days. And you just don't have, by the end of the day, I don't have the brain capacity to operate at the level that I did if I don't give myself the opportunity to do some of those things. However, I think this is a point that I want to talk about and kind of stop on and then let you both elaborate with where your heads are at. But I think we feel guilty when we take that time. At least I know I do, right? Like if I go and I say, hey, coaching client, I can't do that time because I'm going to go have a friend brunch. In my mind, I'm like, well, I should be focused on the business. I should be managing this client, or I should be taking this sales call so I can make a new sale or get a new coaching client in. And I think we feel guilty. I mean, the same thing happens with being a parent, right? I've time blocked my days so that I'm mom when I need to be mom. And that's really, really important to me. However, right, I think anybody that does that, regardless of how long you've been doing it, I think there's some level of guilt when we do those things. And I'm just curious, like how you guys would address the guilt factor.
Yeah, I think anytime that guilt, the shame, we hear ourselves saying, I should, that's an invitation to turn inward and to get curious with yourself of, okay, why do I feel like I should be doing something different? How am I spending my time? What's the value and the worth I'm putting in those things? Because when you're feeling like that, for you, Michelle, hanging out with girlfriends and pouring in your business, those are equally very important to you, right? They have their own spot in your heart and what fuels you, what brings you joy. There needs to be room for all of those things. It's like coming back to homeostasis. You need a little bit of each. If you have on the end of the spectrum so much time in your business, but you are so isolated and lonely because you have no friends, something's going to feel very off. And so that shame, that guilt, it's really an invitation of, why is my inner critic going crazy and what needs some attention? What is that mindset around it? And I think that's the beauty of having a coach, being vulnerable. When I'm having these terrible thoughts, I'm like, okay, maybe it's me being a woman and my cycle is coming. But also, I need to get these feelings out of me. I need to journal. I need to talk to Andrea. I need to be okay having these feelings and these thoughts and saying, okay, I need to voice them to someone, because when we get them out of us, it takes the power away. You mentioned having a coach. We have coaches. We're not supposed to do any of this alone. When we're having these feelings of should and shame and guilt, it's something in us is uncomfortable. we feel off. We're like, oh my God, we're doing something new and something scary. And so these feelings are coming off. And how do we neutralize these feelings? I think that's where our mindset around them and having a coach is so important.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, Michelle, like we all have strengths, and like your big strength is you are a go-getter, you are a businesswoman, and that's not going to fall to the wayside. That's not what you have to worry about. Right. And how can I build my strength of being a really good friend? Do my friends feel loved by me? Do they feel like they're a priority in my life? I want that too. Like Brooke's saying, like it's nothing is ever going to be perfect.
Mhm.
Right. And I think taking that away from the equation, but wanting to build your strength in another avenue. Like something we get a lot is, you guys have such great energy. You're so fun, you know? And it's like, that's a strength of ours. That's why you should follow us, because we're going to always encourage you to find that girlfriend time. If it's not fun and lighting you up, what is the point? Right? Get into your purpose with your business. What's missing in your business that could make it more fun and exciting? Like we are your girls for that, but we have things that we're always working on too. And I think the guilt and the shame, like that can be a strength too. Like I don't think we have to, like that will never go away. I feel like it just moves to a different area, and it's like, okay, here's some guilt and shame. What's it trying to teach me? What needs to move? Okay, I really need to lock in on my business on this avenue because I know it's something that we've been struggling with. And it keeps calling me. I keep thinking about it. So let's do something about it. Let's move towards it and just give it a little bit more attention. It doesn't have to be like a complete 180. Like it can just be a little bit more here and a little bit more there.
Well, one thing you said, and I just took a note, I typed it because I didn't want to lose my train of thought on this specific thing, because what you said was so gold, no pun intended. But something that I want to hit home on here is I think a lot of people listening to this, so our real estate and our mortgage professionals, which is my primary audience, right? I think when you're even listening to this podcast with me, right, you're thinking, hey, Instagram is this thing that's missing in my business. I suck at it. I'm not doing it well. I need to get better at it. But I think the point of this conversation very intentionally is that if there is something missing in your business, it's not necessarily always about business. Meaning the thing that's missing is not necessarily, hey, I need to go pay this for this course, or hey, I need, like, and I'm not saying don't do those things, but I'm saying that's not necessarily always the right answer in the specific moments. For me, the most recent one, and I literally just recently did this, was I got a red light therapy membership at the Pure Float Studio. Red light therapy has an enormous amount of benefits for just being able to find quiet space for me, first and foremost. But on the health side, I'll let you girls do that. I'm not overly educated in it, other than my husband was like, you need to go do it. But I do know that it is something for me. It's 40 minutes of pure alone time. I don't bring my phone in there because it's hot, right? I bring a book, and usually it's in the middle of the day. So it's kind of like this disassociation moment where for 40 minutes, I have nothing better to do other than to sit and read this book, whatever it is. I don't bring a workbook in there with me. It's always something fun or personal for me to read. And when I get out of there, all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, now I have the energy that I need to go do 4 hours of coaching calls in a row, because that's what happens, right? That's the reality of my days. So the point I'm making here is, if you are listening to this and you're like, okay, well, I'm listening to your podcast, Michelle, because I want to get better at Instagram. That's amazing. Keep listening to the other episodes. But with Brooke and Andrea and I right now, I want to just hit home that the thing that might be missing might have nothing to do with the actual business itself. It might have to do with hey, how am I doing as a human in order to serve my audience at the level that I am capable, or know that I'm capable of doing. And you also both use the word loneliness, right? And I think that that's something that we're also not talking about, which is, hey, I'm lonely today. And I think, how do we serve that? And there's a book that I'm reading called Loneliness right now. And it's very statistic heavy and data heavy. And I'm not necessarily like a big numbers person, but the one thing that was a stark standout for me is that since COVID, right, the amount of people that have worked from home has like quadrupled, right? The influx of hybrid workers where they're only going into the office 1 or 2 days a week has skyrocketed. And we all know this, but what are the side effects of that? Right. And the side effects of that are that we don't have coffee time. We're not having an hour lunch break that's designated to go hang out with our friends and not be in front of the computer screen. right? And the book talks about that really digs into that connectedness time. And there was a study in it about the Coca-Cola factory, one of the biggest ones. And the owner of this particular location took away 15-minute coffee breaks for everybody. So he took them away and said that everyone in the entire office has to go at the same time. So instead of anyone can just choose whenever they want their 15 minutes, instead they have to all go together at the same time. And it not only did better for profit, it obviously did better and contributed to less turnover with employees and just all sorts of things that we probably don't even think about, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. Community, that connection, it's everything. It's what causes someone to live longer than other people, is what a lot of the research shows.
Yep.
The research on a 4-day work week. I think it's easy to say it, and these are what these stats show, but I'm a firm believer that it's only evidence if it works for you. And so be willing to experiment. Okay, if I carve out these 20 minutes for lunch to connect with a friend, connect with myself, read a fun book, what does that do for my business? How do I show up differently? Because until you're willing to experiment, put the time in, you're not going to know how it affects you. It's easy for us to talk about it, to say it, because we live it, we breathe it. These are things that we're experimenting with. And so there is some evidence of, okay, we know it helps, we know it works. But if you're listening, I just want to invite you to take that time to experiment, to see what it could do for you.
Yeah. And we know personally in our own business that when we have a lot of time separate, like Brooke and I at summer, we're like going in different directions. It feels off. It feels more lonely. It feels like, who are we and what are we doing here when we are together? Having that, like, I know that's such a blessing, and not a lot of business owners have that. They don't have a business partner, but everything is better when we're talking about what we're struggling with, when we're talking about where we're at, when we have a good cry, when we go to an event together. Like when we came to the Renee's event with you, it was so powerful because you're with people. We're so much more alike than we give ourselves credit for. We all want to be close with our family. We want to make fun memories. We want to be successful. We want to experience life. And if we can kind of come together in these communities, it's everything. Like loneliness sucks. Like the statistics, like you were saying, it's worse or it's better for you to smoke cigarettes chronically than be alone and have the loneliness factor. Like you will live a shorter life living alone than if you just were to smoke cigarettes regularly. So it is something we have to keep talking about and finding a way for more connection.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a crazy statistic. Like without any of the math behind it, just the pure fact, like you will live longer if you smoke cigarettes than if you're alone or if you feel lonely consistently. So
And
I'm
sometimes
just like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, something I want to add is, it's a lot of times it's the simplest things, right? It may be red light therapy, it might be spending an hour at a gym, but the beauty of taking 3 minutes, 3 deep breaths to calm your nervous system, right? I have found in my healing journey over the years that I get so obsessed with figuring out the perfect plan. Right? We think about that with our business. We think about it with our health, with our families. Everything has to be so mapped out, so perfect. And that just ups the stress, ups the cortisol. But when I really slow down and think, what feels aligned, what feels expansive, what feels fun, what wouldn't feel like work, who do I want to be around? That's what makes the biggest difference. And when you're feeling those ways, you're pouring into you. You show up on Instagram differently. Absolutely. Your energy is different. You're more inviting. People want to buy from people who are passionate and who love what they're doing, not just posting to post. And that's something that we've gotten really clear on, is why are we sharing this on social media? If we feel like it's being so forced and we're not showing up authentically, it's better to not post at all.
And I want to add something too, because I love the idea of you sharing this red light therapy, these like tips, because let's normalize business women, businessmen taking care of ourselves. And how are we doing that so we can show up on fire, right? So if everybody listening just normalize, okay, I'm not taking my phone into red light therapy, but I'm taking a picture of me going in, or the fact that I went, or talk about the experience. Let's normalize, like, everybody needs to take better care of themselves. How are we doing it? Let's stop gatekeeping. Let's show the weird things we do, the things that we love. You talk about a lot in your podcast. What makes you you? You like bourbon, you know, let's talk about how you like bourbon. You love your dog. You're obsessed with your dog. Let's talk about the things that make us unique. And let's talk about how we're going to take care of ourselves, because if we all take an hour out of our calendar, it'll be normal for everybody to do that. And then let's share what we're doing so we can use each other's ideas.
Well, that's the next thing that I was like desperate to have a conversation about, because even this morning, one of the number one loan officers in this particular state that I work with, she rides her bike every morning to the office, every single morning. She is an avid Pelotoner, which is amazing, right? So not only does she physically get outside and get the vitamin D of riding her bike to her office, but she is constantly posting about being on her Peloton. She's also constantly talking about the timing of it, right? So she's a 4 a.m. club with me. I get up at 4:15 every morning and I work from 4:30 to 6:30 once my coffee is made. And I have about 15 minutes with just my husband and I. He works for the military, so he's off to go run PT very early in the morning. And so before, I used to not get up that early. I used to sleep in, and I started realizing how important even that 15 minutes of me and Dave time, where I get to make his coffee and put his tea back, because he always takes a full double coffee, half regular, half decaf, and then a full green tea with him to work. And yours truly gets to make that every morning. But like those moments that we kind of glaze over, right? Like that's really important to me. That's me showing up for my husband and being a good wife to him. And I, since doing that, I should say, I'm way more productive in the morning. Like the amount of crap that I can get done from 4:30 to 6:30 is mind blowing now, right? And I say this to everybody all the time. It's like, it's my golden hours. These are my super mom time. Like the amount of work I can get done in 2 hours is what used to equate to like 6. Truly, because I am fired up and ready to rock. It is private alone time. My kid is still asleep. My husband is gone. It's early. I'm holding my cup of coffee, which I love. I love, love, love that first sip in the morning. Who doesn't, right? But that quality time for me to be in my own solitude, I think is a good word, allows for me to be so hyper productive that when Knox does wake up, those designated hours in my calendar where like, hey, no coaching client, you cannot book during this time, I'm a way better mom, right? Like we're going to it's freaking balls hot here in Tennessee right now. So we are not doing a lot of outside time. We're doing a lot of pool time. If we are outside, and we're doing a lot of indoor play. But like we plan time during that, 3-4 hours in the morning where I'm gone. Like I'm not home. I'm not in front of my computer. I'm not talking about coaching calls. I'm not taking a sales call. Like I am mom. And that makes me a better business owner. That makes me a better coach. That makes me a better friend to other girls that are in the industry, or friends that are reaching out for advice from me. And vice versa. Like it bleeds into everything. And I think that's the part that is important that we share on social. And I think if we can transition to that conversation of how are we showing up on social, and how does that correlate to the conversation that we're having. And for me yesterday, in between a webinar and a bunch of coaching calls, I took Knox to the park. We had an amazing like day where the high was like 78 out of nowhere, and it's been well over 90. And the amount of people at the park, clearly everybody had the same idea. But the reality is I made that time and I was like, nope, this is me going, but I made sure to share it. So I say all of that to say, like, not only am I doing it, but I'm sharing it, and I'm showing that, hey, I am doing these things because they are important to me. It is okay for you. It's almost like in my mind, I feel like I'm giving people permission to go do it, and share it.
I want to echo that, and also say sometimes it's okay to not share. Sometimes what you need is to take that time with your baby, take that time with yourself, and say, no one needs to know what I'm doing. I will still show up okay on social media. People will still love me. They'll still want to know. They'll still buy from me. But what I really need in this moment is to not show that I'm taking care of myself, but is to actually take care of myself. And you have to find what is that balance. Like, am I posting to prove, hey, I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing, and I want to feel a certain way? Or is the post really authentic and it's to invite people to take care of themselves, right? What is the reason behind that? So as you're speaking, I love that. I love that you're sharing what you're doing. It's the exact reason why we share. We want people to take care of themselves. But sometimes what you also need is to take a break from social media. And by you taking a break, it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
It's still okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's a balance. And what I like too, Michelle, that you said is like, you're talking about why you're doing it and how you're doing it. Because I think sometimes we see that like, does she have a team? Does she have a nanny? Like, how's she doing it? And you're like, no, I put this in my calendar. I was intentional about this. This is important to me. And this is how you can do it too. So I see the value in both, like based on what you need in your mental health in your tank. Like, is it time to show the tangible steps? Because sometimes it's like, for me, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going on social. I feel good today. I want to talk about what I'm doing, why I'm doing. And then other times it's like, it doesn't feel aligned. It feels depleting, and kind of figuring out that balance is really important.
Yeah,
The
it's so true.
intentionality of it.
I love what you said though, Brooke, of like, sometimes it's okay not to share it. And I think that's a big conversation too, is I think we are so consumed a lot of times by feeling like we have to share everything in order to like prove a point. And I'm totally guilty of this, right? I'm like, hey, no, I really am busy, I swear, right? And like some days I'll go through multiple days of stories, like in posting in my stories, and I'll realize I haven't posted a single thing about business and it's been 100% about my kid. So I'm like, oh crap, do people think that I'm not busy? Like, no, I really swear, like it's actually scary how busy I am right now in a good way. And so I have these like weird mental switches that happen that I have to kind of like remind myself of. But also when I had that moment very recently, actually, where I had actually gone 3 days in a row and I realized I hadn't posted anything about work at all. What was so beautiful about it is they were 3 days where I felt like a really good mom. Like, and I even made a comment to my husband about how present I felt. And we're about to get ready to go on our first family vacation here in a short while, which we've never done a week family vacation since my son was born with the three of us. And I'm like, yes, I'll post on social, but honestly, I just want to be there. Like, I am just so excited to go put my kid in the sand with a sandbox and like sand toys that like don't bother me. I'll be drinking a margarita playing with my kid, like, you know. And so I love what you said. Like sometimes it's okay not to share it because we're truly living in the moment. And I think that's really the point that we're making in all of this, right? Is we need time in our day-to-days to do what makes our cups really, really full so that we can continue to show up for our people. And the quote it's not a quote, it's just a phrase that you guys both said, both of you ladies did, in your own ways, is that sometimes what we need in our business actually has nothing to do with business itself, right? And the art of doing business itself better. So any final takeaways from either one of you guys that you guys want to share?
Yeah, something I keep thinking about is what is your relationship to Instagram? What is your relationship to social media, to the business? And what do you need to make it thrive? Because sometimes you're right. A lot of the times it is something internal. It's a conversation with your business partner. It's a conversation with another entrepreneur. It's a book that you need to read. It's time to meditate. Right? That's going to help with that relationship, the relationship with yourself, the relationship to your business partner, your family as a mom. So as you're listening to this episode and when you're thinking about your business, it's, what relationship needs a little love? And a lot of times it is that relationship with yourself.
Just to add to that, I think so much of business is overthinking. We are thinking and analyzing and being critical and comparing and looking at stats and trying to get conversions and blah. It is so much. And a lot of times what we need to do is get back to the basics, the foundations of just getting some whole real foods in your body, moving your body, getting sleep. What de-stresses you and how are you fitting it in your day? Like, we don't have to overthink strategy all the time, because a lot of times when we peel it back to those foundational wellness habits, like Brooke said, it's going to waterfall into every avenue of your business. When you have the energy and the high vibration, you feel like yourself, you feel like you're caring for yourself, then you can care for others. And so much of business, it just goes back to the foundational wellness habits that we all know we need to focus on.
So true. So true and so good. And both of you ladies, I just think are amazing. And what you guys are doing is something that I really, really to my core feel like the real estate and mortgage community needs more of. And I say that for lots of reasons that I won't get into right now, but just out of my own curiosity of living in the space with the real estate and mortgage population, it is very apparent that there is a lack of what we are talking about. And so I just felt like this was such an important conversation for our audience to hear. And both of you girls are just walking images of what it looks like and what it sounds like. And ultimately, I just encourage my audience to get dialed into you both. So with that being said, will you guys let us know, how can someone get connected to you? How do we find you? What also do you guys have coming up that someone might get dialed into?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And thank you for this opportunity. We love chatting with you. And I do just want to add, it's not just your community. Right? When you look at culture as a whole, we are in a hustle society. Whether it's you being an entrepreneur or you're working in a 9 to 5, it's not just your community that needs to take a little better care of themselves. It's everyone. It's us included, right? We can always be doing more. We can always be more intentional with how we're taking care of ourselves. And that's why for us, and what we have really exciting that's coming up, is our Ultimate Reset Challenge, which is a course and a challenge all in one. And it's just helping people get back to the basics of, like Andrea said, what are you drinking? How much water are you drinking? How much are you sleeping? What are you eating? How are you pouring into you? And allowing room in your calendar for fun, for rejuvenation, for play. Once a quarter, we do this reset because life gets busy, life gets hectic, it gets crazy, and we need each other to help hold us accountable of, hey, how are you taking care of you? So you can learn more about that. We're very active on Instagram at Gold Ivy Health Co. I'm sure we can plug all that information in the show notes too, but we want to help you feel your best. That is our mission. That is the content we put out. Is doesn't make us feel good, and is the mission to help other people feel good. And if yes, it's aligned, send it out.
And we also like to just make it fun. So in the course, like there's videos of us amping you up and getting you excited to track these habits. Like health can be fun. It can be lighthearted. We do workouts together within the course. There's workouts through the week that are connected to, you can see what it's like to move with us. And Brooke and I just feel like it doesn't always have to be like, hit it hard, which I do love intense workouts, but just not to like hit it hard and punish yourself. It can be like, hey, we're going to get stronger together. We're going to feel good in our bodies. We're going to laugh at each other. And so our mission on social at Gold Ivy Health Co. or within our course is like, let's try and make this fun while we're pushing our bodies. Like it doesn't have to be so heavy all the time.
I love that. I love that. And the funness factor is so important, because I think I don't remember who said it, but has resonated with me since I've heard it. But as we get older, we get farther and farther away from the childhood play, like the personality that we had when we were playing, in our living room with our toys and our trucks or whatever. And so that's one thing that it's fun for me, even is when I'm playing with my son, I actually put my, hey, I'm 3 playing with this hat on, and it's so fulfilling. Like it feels so good to just kind of be silly and funny and just be free, if you will, from kind of the chains of, hey, I'm 34 running a company and I'm busy and I have all these million things going on, and I'm just living in my happy place. So thank you both so much. Of course, absolutely, there will be links in the show notes, so you guys can jump on any of that. Feel free to reach out to both Andrea and Brooke through their Instagram. Incredible people, ladies that I've had the pleasure to get to know. So until next time, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast.